went to law school in New York at 𝐒𝐢𝐦�ស៊, and I practiced law for quite some time. Not for me, didn't like it. I loved school because I'm like such a dork like that, but I did not like practicing. After that, I went into finance, which is literally the opposite of anyone that knows me. I'm not that kind of like Wall Street kind of person at all. I just fell into it. And then after that, I went back to law, validating for me as an interior designer, because you hear all these horror stories. People are like, I hired my interior designer or my interior designer quit. So for me to have these recurring clients, and I'm talking about some are like not just second or third, like fourth, fifth. Wow. I have one client I've worked on over 10 projects with. It's like a marriage. I don't know if you've ever done a renovation before.
I have.
But like people can get divorced over it. So I was a 35-year-old mother of 3 kids, and I was like, can I be an intern?
What's up, everybody? This is Simon. On this episode of the Ideal Hour podcast, I have Melanie Morris, who is a luxury interior designer in New York City. Melanie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm excited to talk about interior design.
Thank you so much for having me, Simon. I'm excited as well.
Very well. So let's talk about a few things. One, New York has some very small spaces. I mean, you have to be creative to make it functional, usable, and airy. Give me some pointers on how you approach a situation, or how should a client approach a situation with their interior.
So I think one of the most important things, and it's something that my team does really well, is first of all, you want to know who is living in the space. I happen to work on a lot of young families, people with younger kids or, kids that are first starting school and stuff like that. So it's really important to integrate play space as well as a place for them to study. So we often do built-ins, custom built-ins, and we design them from the beginning to the end. We use a program called SketchUp. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I have.
A lot of designers use AutoCAD, which is amazing. We use that to start, but it's very basic. It's black and white, and sometimes hard for, I guess you could say, the layman, the regular client to really get an understanding of what it's going to look like in the space. So with SketchUp, we could really help them envision how it's spaced in the room, how much room it's going to take up. We put like a little person in the room that resembles like the height of the client, so they could get an idea, the colors, the textures, all of that stuff. And it really helps the client envision the space. So you get the most bang for your buck as far as space and organizing and keeping things in the right place with a customized built-in.
I see. And yeah, I'm familiar with AutoCAD. I'm sure a lot of our viewers are as well. It's very kind of engineer focused, I would say. It's a little bit above the average user's experience. But what inspired you to get into interior design? Like, what sparked your interest out of all the career paths and so forth?
It wasn't my first career path or my second.
Okay.
So I actually, I look back when I was a child, I was always rearranging my room. And I actually recently found my diary. And in my diary, I said that I wanted to be an interior designer. I don't know what happened because that's not where I started my career. I actually went to law school in New York at 𝐒𝐢𝐦𝐿𝐴, and I practiced law for quite some time. Not for me, didn't like it. I loved school because I'm like such a dork like that, but I did not like practicing. After that, I went into finance, which is literally the opposite of anyone that knows me. I'm not that kind of like Wall Street kind of person at all. I just fell into it. And then after that, I went back to law.
Okay.
Didn't like it. And then when my first child, when I was pregnant with my third son, I have 3 boys, when I was pregnant with my third child, the interior designer that I used to help me with my home, I had asked her if she would help me do the nursery. And she was like, I'm not coming out. I live on Long Island. I have a place in the city as well. But she's like, I'm not coming out to Long Island, Melanie, to do one simple room. I'm sure you could do it yourself. And I look back and now I'd be the same way. I wouldn't do one room. But I was like, oh, what a snob. Meanwhile, she's like one of my mentors. She's the best person on the planet. But I ended up doing it myself. And I was like, wow, this is something I like. And lo and behold, like some friends gave me some rooms to do. And it started out like that. And that's how my career started. And it's been like over 15 years and I love it.
That's great. I've never known anyone that left law school and went back to law. It's like once you're out, you're out. You've escaped.
I know. I know. Well, what happened was it was before I got pregnant with my third and I moved out to Long Island. I was losing my mind. I was like, I can't not work. Like, I can't be one of these women that like shop all day and go for lunch. I was crazy. So one of my friends from law school who also moved out, she had done divorce law, like with a big firm in the city. And she was like, Melanie, let's do something like, to help like people that can't afford a divorce. And let's do something like that. And we did. And we did that for a year. And then I was like, this is not for me.
I see. Yeah, divorce law is actually very, I've had some friends that went through divorce. It's one of the kind of downers. You're in the relationship with these two people.
No, it was, and
brutal.
because it was like low cost, it was people that really didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one woman at the beginning, she was fighting for like $50 a week
Oh, geez.
to get from her ex-husband to help with her children. And I was like, I was so sick every day listening to these stories that I was like, this isn't good for my mental health.
Yeah,
like,
I agree with that. It sounds like you got to use your creative side, which is what makes you happier. And interior design is definitely one of those spaces that you could do that with. How did you break into the competitive New York scene? I'm sure there's so many New York interior designers, and
oh my God.
New York to me is such a sophisticated area. The people present themselves well. They take care of themselves so much,
Right.
especially in Manhattan, I should say.
Right.
But how did you break into that scene? Was it difficult?
I think a lot of it is word of mouth. So once you get one job and that person, refers you to someone else or they hear you. And also at the beginning of my career, when I first started, 𝐒𝐢𝐦�здz was huge for me. That's where I got like some major exposure and some of my best first-time clients. And then I think Instagram, like I don't use 𝐒𝐢𝐦�здz anymore. Instagram is major. For me, I just happen to be really lucky in the sense that every single client I have now is a repeat client. All my clients that I'm working on presently are clients I've worked with in the past.
That's nice.
So first of all, it's really validating for me as an interior designer, because you hear all these horror stories. People are like, I hired my interior designer or my interior designer quit. So for me to have these recurring clients, and I'm talking about some are like not just second or third, like fourth, fifth. Wow. I have one client I've worked on over 10 projects with.
Wow.
So it's validating for me and it's easier. It makes the project and the process so much easier because you know how each other work. With each project, it's like a marriage. I don't know if you've ever done a renovation before.
I have.
But like people can get divorced over it. So like you said, like you are every part of that project. Like you're the therapist, the husband wants this, the wife wants this, and you have to like somehow get them to communicate properly and figure out what you want. So there's a lot involved, and it makes it a lot easier when you've worked with the clients before.
Well, it speaks volumes to you having retained the clients and continuously working with them. And it truly shows that it makes your job easier picking out the clients that you can work with, that, sometimes two partners or two people are magnets and it works, and sometimes it doesn't work. And that's reality, but it speaks volumes that you continuously get retention. But I will also kind of go back to earlier in the podcast. I mean, you were a lawyer helping out divorced people, and you just mentioned interior design has some level of marriage. Yeah. So that plus finance, you're kind of the perfect mold, because people over budget in interior design and they want more for less.
Well, I think people under budget.
Under budget, excuse me. Right. They want more for less.
Exactly. And the hardest thing is like, when a prospective client reaches out and they're like, and I'm like, what's your budget? And they're like, I don't know. What should my budget be? And I could tell you, I can't tell you what your budget should be. I could tell you, working with a luxury interior designer, like I pride myself on doing custom work. Like I love, like I said, doing custom built in, designing, maybe it's a custom sofa or a custom bed or whatever it is. And that's, to me, the fun creative process. Like I remember at the beginning of my career, people would be like, well, you have to learn to do all styles, or you have to learn to do all like, lower end in stock stuff if someone wants that. And I'm like, maybe at the beginning, you have to accept projects like that. But at this point now, like I do this because I love it and I want to feel that creativity. And unfortunately, when the budget is a little bit lower than what I'm used to doing, I can't be as creative. Mm-hmm. So it's just, and I'm a small firm. Yeah. So I don't feel that same pressure that some of the larger firms feel to take on as many projects. I really take on the projects that I'm excited about. I feel connected to the client. I feel connected to the space. Otherwise, it's not worth it for me.
I totally can relate. We have a luxury travel agency, and our clientele is mainly on the high net worth, and they request or require a certain level of attention, a certain level of demand that they put out there to get from us. And those clients are the clients we want to work with. And we don't want to, for example, work with an economy travel type client, not because they're good people, bad people. It's just not our forte and not what we're specialized in. So, but we've had consultants go, why don't you guys take on a branch of economy and so forth? And we say, no, because this is what we specialize in. This is what we're good at. So I totally relate to what you say. What was the biggest risk you took in your career? I mean, you've kind of hopped around from law to finance to law and then to interior design. Right. What was the risks?
I mean, I have to say, I hope this doesn't come out the wrong way, but I'm really fortunate. So, I live on Long Island. I have this office for myself, and I was able to just start, right? Like I think of how grateful I am when people say, people will say, oh, you're self-made, Melanie, because I did start this career from nothing. But I do account for the fact that I had a husband that said, oh, you want to start interior design? Here's your office. I'll get you a babysitter for the kids and go from there. So I had that, that step or two up, whereas, someone else may have to worry about childcare or where are they going to have their office. So I'm so grateful to that. So I don't think it was really a risk. I guess, it was, people were like, interior design, you're an attorney, what are you doing? And I was like, I love it. I just love it so much. So I can't really, what's your
husband's name?
Sandy.
Shout out to Sandy, because what a supportive team at home will be more successful with any venture that you guys tackle on, and that's great that he helped you out. I think that's amazing. I've done that with my wife as well, and she also could not sit around at home or go to these PTO meetings or whatever else. So kudos to you, and that's actually a great thing, because oftentimes I see people on this podcast that are entrepreneurs. If the spouse or a girlfriend is not with the vision, then the business doesn't really have a chance to 100%. Succeed.
Yeah, he's super supportive. He loves that I work. He's so proud of me to the point where sometimes it's embarrassing, because he'll be like, we'll be out somewhere and someone will say they're building in a house, like in Aspen or whatever. And he'll be like, oh, my wife's an interior designer. And I'm standing there and I'm like, just please stop. But he's so proud. He talks about it. Like his friends will tell me he's always talking about it. So I'm very lucky.
That is incredible. Thank you for sharing that. And did you ever have, like in your career, I know you started a little small, the office, it was probably hard to get it going, and not everything's easy. People always see the finish line, right? But did you have that I made it moment on your first big contract, or at what point did you feel like, this is great, right, this is it?
I feel like I have this one really special client that I've been working with for like 10 years, and he's in real estate and he loves interior design. He's married, he has 5 kids, but he's the client more than the wife. He cares so much more. And the first time I moved him into his first home, I was like, wow, I mean, his home is incredible. Him and his wife have the best taste. And since then, I've done so many homes for them. And I love working with them. He really appreciates our creativity and really, at this point, because we've worked together for so long, really trusts our creative process. So I think probably my first project with him, but then with every project, it just gets better and better.
Is he a real estate investor, or is he someone that loves to live at a home for 2-3 years and maybe move on?
He's a major real estate guy.
Oh, got it. Okay, excellent.
Like in the real estate world.
I have like a thing where if I live at a place for 5 or more years, maybe I haven't found the perfect place. I want to move and change it up.
Right.
All right, and as far as mentorship, you mentioned someone's kind of your mentor. How important has it been to your career to have a mentor, at least someone you could run ideas off, particularly maybe in your industry as well?
Right. Well, the mentor was at the beginning. So basically, like I said, when I moved to my home on Long Island, I was introduced to this woman. Her name is Ellen Smith. She's a legend. And when I decided I wanted to do this, I was like, can I come into your office and kind of intern? I mean, I was a 35-year-old mother of 3 kids, and I was like, can I be an intern? And she was like, of course. So I would go into her office about once a week for a year, and she would teach me, and I would do everything with her. I'd go to site visits, and I would scheme with her, and she showed me the business from the ground up. And, for a couple of years, I would go back and forth with her for advice, and I still talk to her, and we still meet for lunch. She recently moved to LA. But she taught me a lot. There are certain things I laugh about when I tell her because there are like these lessons that she taught me that I still use to this day.
That is wonderful because it really shows how you put your pride aside to intern. Not everyone at 35 with 3 kids is going to say that or do that. That's pretty amazing.
But again, that goes back to Sandy. I had basically a newborn at home. Yeah. And he was like, don't worry, like, we'll figure out like childcare. Like, this is something you want to do, like, make it happen.
Wonderful. And as the audience watches, what piece of advice would you give to anyone kind of starting out today in today's world? Especially, I think there's a shift from house to Instagram and social media.
Yeah. It's funny because I do get like random emails every now and then from aspiring interior designers asking, if they could speak to me. And the advice that I usually give them is I think it's very important to learn the software, AutoCAD and SketchUp. I have to be honest, I don't know it. I never went to school for interior design, but I'm lucky to have, a team that really is good at it. But with that being said, I think it's very important to learn those skills. And unfortunately, I know this sounds hypocritical, but I do think it's important to go to school because someone like me, I'm not going to hire someone that didn't go to school, which I know is so hypocritical, but I need people that know these programs. So I think that going to school, learning that, and then I think like starting to create your profile, asking anyone and everyone, can I help you design this room? Can I do this? I'll do it for free. That's what I did. My first project outside of my home was a friend's daughter. I asked her if I could design her. She was going to redo her daughter's room. And I'm like, can I do it? I'll do it for free. And that was like my first step.
And then you advertised it and said, look how great I did it. And you got someone that would give you a reference and you move forward. Yeah. That's excellent. And I completely understand why someone would want to hire in a professional level, someone that's went to school, et cetera. You want to see that this person has committed themselves for 4 years to do something and may even know software and so forth. Makes total sense. Let's talk about New York. New York is one of my favorite places to visit. It's always alive. Obviously, Manhattan is what I'll focus on, and you could share some Long Island. I think I've been there a few times.
There's nothing exciting.
Nothing exciting. Manhattan, the scene has changed. What's it like in terms of what are people expecting now in Manhattan in terms of interior design? Are the grays out? Do people want white and clean?
I think, that whole like organic, like creams and, stained oak and walnut, and that was going on for a while. And I do think it's very soothing. It's very like hotel chic.
Mhm.
And some clients really still love it, but I think it's like boucle. Do you know what boucle is?
I don't.
It's like a textured fabric. I don't have any here because I'm kind of like, it's trendy and I'm over it. But like, if you go on any of the like CB2s or any of these stocked stores, their items that are stocked are all in boucle. So as an interior designer, I'm like, now I'm not using it, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm not going to use something that everyone's using. So I think that the interior designers are now moving towards some other elements. I think now color's coming back a little bit more. I think texture for me is always the most important, like to have different layers of texture. And I'm also, like I said, because I work with a lot of families, practicality is so important.
Mhm.
As much as you could have, if your home's big enough, you could have that artsy chair that really isn't comfortable and nobody's going to sit in if you have room. But if you don't have room, you need that comfortable chair. So there's a balance.
Practicality is key. I have some friends that have homes. You could walk into their home and you could tell that this is them, right? Like it's almost like
Right.
the dog that matches the owner, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And some of their rooms, every room has a different theme. Now, I've had real estate professionals, some top selling ones actually in the country on the podcast, part of the agency, and you guys could check out that episode. But they mentioned that a specific design doesn't always sell well if they're trying to flip the house. It's too tailored to that person's characteristic, and you want something more welcoming or kind of open for anyone to come in and buy. Would you say designing a room and not knocking on those friends, designing a room so special, each one room to its own design, is a good idea or a bad idea? Or
I feel like there's two parts to that question. One is, and this is one of the pieces of design advice that Ellen had given me when I first started off, is I would show her something and she'd be like, well, that doesn't marry this. Like everything in the home has to kind of marry each other. Like you're not going to do, I wouldn't, right? I wouldn't do like a super tailored classic design in one room and then the rest is like all uber modern. That's weird. Like the style should kind of remain like be consistent throughout the home. But as far as for resale value, it's really interesting. I did a project in Delray one of my first projects outside of New York. And this client is super funky. She wants pink here. She's that client that's super fun, but other people might walk into the house and be like,
whoa,
this is great. I love it. Like if it was a hotel, but I couldn't necessarily live there. And it's funny. Now she's buying another house. It'll be my third project with her. And she's like, can I do a pink kitchen? And I'm like, you could absolutely do a pink kitchen, but it might not be so great for resale. So, you have to say to yourself, do you care if it's going to affect the resale value? If you do, then yes, a pink kitchen will definitely be harder to sell, even if it's super chic and so cool.
Those Floridians with their colors, it's so interesting. And Delray actually is a place that's really up and coming in terms of luxury because Boca's next to it, and I know Boca very well. Do you ever see yourself moving to Florida, or are you a New Yorker through and through?
It's funny you say that. My husband and I were recently looking in Miami to possibly buy a place. And I used to always say, no, no, no. I don't think like those developments in Delray or Boca for me at all. I really my favorite thing about New York City is like, I love to walk but be anonymous, right? Like I might run into someone I know, but like I could walk for hours and just be by myself. And I love that. I feel in those neighborhoods, like you walk around and you see like a million, you're like, hello. It's not for me. So
you like action, but you like a lot of distraction, it sounds like as well. Yeah, that's the downside.
Maybe one day. I do love the nice weather.
Yeah, and the real estate there has gone up so much. including some of these new builds that they're doing there. And a lot of people, want to save taxes. And Miami, though, I will say, is a little bit crazy on traffic, but so is New York. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. But the
And
beauty,
also the insurance.
yeah, oh yeah,
Hey.
that's gotten through the roof.
Yeah, so that's like something. My husband's in the insurance industry, so that's something he's always like, we really have to consider that part of the finance.
Yeah,
it
it hasn't been. If you got in prior to the pandemic, I think it was good value. Now it's almost becoming New York prices. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about design in terms of functionality. And what are some of the key things in terms of functionality you think each home should have? Like a mud room, is that important? What are some of the core values of a home design?
Again, it depends on who's living in the home, right? Sure. So a mudroom is definitely important if you have children, for sure. It's a no-brainer. If you're a beach house or a ski house or something like that, for sure you need that. A kitchen, a new thing people are doing are like these sculleries, second kitchens. Have you heard of them?
Mm-hmm. For like a chef or someone to serve as well, or just from the side?
It doesn't even have to be like that elaborate, but it's just like kind of a second kitchen that might have the second dishwasher and the extra refrigerator, as opposed to like back in the day putting it in the garage.
I like that.
Yeah, some people actually have walk-in fridges like you see on the Kardashians, and it's nice because, like, especially I am like OCD psychopath organized. So like even my own kitchen, I don't like anything on the counter. I could have like a decorative platter with some fruit, but otherwise you don't see anything. So like the toaster, the blender, everything, the coffee maker, everything is behind. Like I don't want to see anything.
With a wall that kind of closes, or is it kind of in a different area altogether?
Well, I'm not fortunate enough to have a scullery, so I just have like one of those big cabinets that you open like that, and then I have my whole coffee station and stuff like that. But now on most projects that I'm doing from the ground up, we'll do a scullery.
You know what I did the other day? I got tired of all of my kids' iPads and phone chargers and phone cables on the kitchen counter. So I went on Amazon and bought like a cabinet outlet and drilled a hole in the cabinet myself, cut it out, and installed it and used one of the drawers to just charge all these devices.
Oh, smart.
And it works so well. And now it cleaned up that entire area. So if anyone wants to pull out a drawer, all the iPads and everything's in there. And it, I think that's such an important thing. I think if I do my next home design, which I've remodeled a few, I'm going to incorporate some type of electrical just underneath the countertops as well to use any cabinet for whatever necessary.
Right. I'm all about like hiding all the crap. Like I have friends, I walk into their homes and like my anxiety skyrockets. I'm like, and I start like putting things away. One of my best friends, like I can't walk into her house without like moving things around.
Let me ask you, is that from childhood, or like was your mom always clean, or was it a reverse?
Yeah, like the type, you had to clean before the cleaning lady came.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that. Let's get back. You mentioned something about a pink kitchen yesterday. What am I talking about? Earlier, a pink kitchen. It threw me off just even saying it. That's how crazy it is, and I get it. It's Miami or Florida. But
I don't think it has to do with that. It's just the personality.
It's just the first.
She loves what she loves.
Hey, that's okay. You know what? And it's her money, and she can do whatever she wants to do with it. What is your favorite color for a kitchen? Is a kitchen, in your opinion, like I personally like traditional white because you could accent it with fruits and nice bowls and so forth. But what is your type of kitchen? What do you think about countertops and so forth, or does it depend?
As far as countertops, I'm a huge fan of natural marble. I can't stand the copies, the faux marbles. They kill me. I understand people's hesitation. The pink kitchen girl won't do marble because she's like, it'll drive me crazy if there's stains, because it starts to like, you see like ring marks and stuff like that. I don't care. To me, that's like the natural look of the marble. You could get it treated too, but like for me, that's what marble is. Like if you go to a bar in the city and it's a natural marble, you see that. So it doesn't bother me. So there's so many beautiful marbles out there. That's one of my favorite things to do is go to the marble yard and look at marble. So I think people make a big mistake when they don't use natural marble. In the case, if you like my pink kitchen girl, like I'll do like a Caesar stone. I won't do something that resembles marble. Kills me. As far as the cabinetry, I don't actually like painted white. Painted is hard because no matter what, it tends to chip. So the upkeep of it is harder. Like if you do a stained wood, you won't see the chip as much. So I tend to try to get my clients to do stained. Pink kitchen girl will not do stained. I've tried.
She's going to be famous.
Pink flowers and stained on the top. She hates any stained wood. But you could do like, it could be stained, but like stained a color, which is one of my favorite things to do. So I like it. To me, the kitchen is where you should spend money. Obviously, most people, families especially, spend their time in the kitchen. So, when someone, let's say, buys a house and they only want to renovate one part of the house, I'll be like, the kitchen, that's where you're spending most of your time. Like, make that amazing. And that's what most people see. You come in the house, usually the kitchen is one of the focal points.
And in terms of building kitchens, and in New York right now, or in, say, Manhattan, for example, are people also doing that and trying to cover everything on the counters, or does it vary where they want more of a traditional kitchen? So what I'm asking is, I've seen a lot of, I don't know what you guys call it, but it kind of covers their entire coffee machine. It just looks like there's nothing there. What is that called, that type of design?
A garage? You mean that's
like it's almost like a garage door everywhere. Is that popular or no?
To an extent, like a lot of times, like, you open the doors and then you pull them back to see like a coffee station. I think that more people want to see less.
And for coffee machines, do you still recommend built-in coffee machines like a Miele?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't, because they could break and then you need a new one, but it's like suited for the specific space. I love my Nespresso machine in my, I keep it plugged in. So I have where you open it like that, and there's my Nespresso machine, and there's an outlet there, and then I open the drawer and I have all my coffee pods, all my teas, like super organized.
Love it. Now, when Sandy is Sandy as organized as you are, or you have to get on top of him in terms of making sure organization is key?
No, I wouldn't say he's as organized as I am, but he does get nervous when it starts to get a little bit messy, and he does start to put things away, but not like psychotic like I am.
Now let's talk about raising 3 boys and having a successful design business. I mean, 3 boys. I have 1 boy and he's a wild cracker. He's just running everywhere, etc. How do you juggle that? I know you get help, but how do you juggle it? Because it's not easy. And
it's, well, when they were younger, they're older now. So my oldest is a junior at Syracuse. My freshman, my second is a freshman at UT, and then I have a 9th grader. So right now I really only have 1 at home, and he's in 9th grade, so he kind of ignores me.
Oh, good. He stays out of trouble.
Yeah, but when they were younger, it was harder because they would constantly come in my office, which is at home. But now it's a lot easier, obviously, as they get older.
I see. What's a common misconception people have with interior designers when they're hiring one? Like, what's something that they should be aware of or that they may not be?
Right. I don't know if this is exactly answering your question, but there are times I'll get some phone calls, from prospective clients, and they'll ask me what discount I get, from the different trade companies or whatever. And I immediately, that's like a super red flag. And I'll say, listen, if you're hiring me because I get a discount at these, vendors, these showrooms, I'm probably not the right person for you. Like, you're hiring me because I'm super creative. I'm going to make your house amazing. I'm going to make the process as seamless as possible for you. Like, the discount should not be part of it. Granted, I do pass on the discount to the clients, but that shouldn't be a reason to hire me.
Yeah, that's not an initial discussion. Yeah, no, it does. I think a lot of a lot of maybe the misconception is if I go through an interior designer, I'm going to be saving money versus really the reason I'm going through an interior designer is to have a spectacular home.
Exactly.
I'm
not the type of designer you're going to go to save money. However, I will tell you that I've had people, and I don't know if you've heard of The Expert, have you?
No, I haven't.
The Expert was actually started by Jake Arnold. He's like an amazing interior designer. He's out of LA, and he started it over COVID because there were people that like wanted interior design help. So basically, if someone called me and they were like, will you help me with my bedroom? Like I said, I'd be like, I only do full scope projects. I'm sorry, but you could reach out to me on The Expert. And it's basically a consulting platform, with very high end interior designers. So if a client has something like that, then they could consult on The Expert that done that way. I forget why I was telling you that, what the question was.
Well, no, because it allows, I think, the client to come in and get limited advice or advice set to a certain point, and really have a smaller budget. Not everyone has a big budget, but your clientele are clientele that really demand a full view, a full attention to their project. It's a different clientele than someone just moving into an apartment and really going to live there for a year or two. So that's not your bread and butter, your client, and I get that.
It does work with The Expert. The Expert is really fun because then someone like that I can speak to and they'll show me their, one bedroom rental and they'll be like, how do I organize the furniture? Like, what can I get? And it's so fun for me because I get to help someone like that, but also it's 1 hour and I'm done. I mean, they might have a follow-up, but I'm not ordering anything. I don't have, like everyone says, like interior design is great and it's creative, but it's 20% creative, 80% business. There's so many things that can go wrong. So on The Expert, like that business aspect doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it's all creative.
You're not negotiating price. You're not dealing with any of that. It sounds like The Expert is a streamlined consulting service for luxury design. It's kind of nice.
100%.
Which is great. And I think a lot of people could use that. What's your take? A lot of people in this area, and even myself included, tend to look at restoration hardware for trends nowadays. Is restoration hardware a thing in New York and Manhattan design scene, or is it something that you look at in terms of maybe supplying some of your clients, or is RH kind of?
I think RH is like a step up, from like CB2, West Elm, Crate and Barrel. I don't necessarily think I look at them I think they are trendy. They do have things like, if you look at their like in stock items, they'll be in boucle, right? Do I purchase from restoration hardware? Yes, like every now and then, like a piece or two for a project, but it's not a go-to for mine. No offense to restoration hardware, it's just not necessarily
what your clients are looking at. Yeah. Very well. And then in terms of obviously you've ran now a successful business for a while. In terms of building strong, lasting relationships with your clients, you mentioned a lot of your clients are repeat clients, and that's so important in your business because that means you guys have worked together so well and they trust you. I mean, these are not small projects and they're time consuming and costly. So they trust you again and again. What are some key takes or some key points you can share that will foster that type of relationship with any client out there?
That's a really good question. And I think one thing I really pride myself on is complete transparency. It's important for a client to understand your process, really like whenever I'm in that negotiating phase of a contract, I'm always super clear on things. I'll always say, I promise you on a project this size, there'll be more than one mistake, more than one issue that will happen, without a doubt. If you think about it, you're working on a 10,000 square foot home. You're dealing with, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of vendors. When you think of the contractors and all of that, and the architect, then all of the FF&E, furniture supply and all that, hundreds of vendors. So you're counting on all these people. things are going to go wrong 100%. I promise you. But I always say, but that's why you have me, because it's not your problem. My team will handle it and we'll get you whole. That's what we do. And that was what I was going to say. Going back to, is that if the prospective client is looking at you to get a discount, you have to explain to them, you actually will save them money in the end because there'll be less mistakes. And if there is a mistake, and I'm not going to lie, I've made one or two really bad mistakes in my career, thankfully at the beginning of my career, but that was my mistake and I paid for it. It's not the client's mistake. It was fully my mistake. So I think when you're working with a professional, like the project is going to go a lot more, a lot smoother. And at this point in my career, like I understand one of the most important things is transparency. And because we do a lot of ground ups or renovation projects and we're dealing with contractors and different trades and architects all the time, from the very get-go, it's so important to kind of take a step back and be really nice and really accommodating because there are a lot of egos in this industry. Mm-hmm. And, I want them to know that I'm not one of these interior designers that it's my way or the highway. I try to collaborate. I want to come up with the best project and the best home for the client. So it's super important to create those relationships from the get-go because you need these people on your side.
Completely agree. You mentioned you're working with 100+ vendors and, and I'm just imagining it because I've built from the ground up as well. You have to know the layouts, the sizes of the rooms. You got to measure everything. So all these little minuscule things that you're jotting and checking off, the clients don't really see that when they make that first phone call. And that's why they hire people like you. What happens if, we're not going to bring up the pink lady because, we did, because she has her vision and so forth. But what happens with the client that wants something, but deep inside that maybe that's not a good vision for this room. It doesn't marry well with the rest of the property. How do you present that, or how do you approach that type of situation? Has it happened?
Right. Yes, it's happened. Anyone that knows me knows I kind of have a big mouth and I kind of don't have a filter. And I'll tell prospective clients from the beginning, like before you hire me, I'll be like, I will tell you up front. If you show me something and I don't like it, I will tell you. That is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. But with that being said, if I show you something and you don't like it, you need to tell me that's the ugliest thing you've ever seen. Because communication is one of the most important things. Like if you don't trust me, and you're going to end up doing something that I don't like and it comes out terrible. And then I say, well, I didn't really like it. I mean, that's just ridiculous. You're hiring me because I know it's going to look good and I'm professional. So I'm super upfront and I tell them exactly what I'm thinking.
I love that. Yeah, it's a communication back and forth and they'll respect you and you'll respect them. I think more if they give you valid feedback. In terms of maintaining good relationships with partners or sourcing your vendors, is anything you would want to share with that? Anything to watch out for when dealing with vendors?
Yeah, I have some vendors that I've worked with from day one. Like one of my best millwork guys, I've worked with him. He would swim across the ocean to help me. So when you have those kind of relationships, it's super important. With that being said, you do have many of those relationships having been in the business for a long time. But with that being said, you have other things like you're creative, right? So you're always coming up with something new. And there are times that you're going to work with a new vendor or work with a product that you've never worked with before because you're innovative, right? You want something amazing. And you have to stress to the client, interior design is not a science, right? So I'm going to make this incredible thing for you, but I can't guarantee you 100% that the process is going to go smoothly because maybe I never worked with this part before. I never worked with that part before. But again, like I said, it's my problem and I'll make it work. So as much as you want to continue working with the people you trust and have the amazing quality, you have to be innovative. So you have to always be looking to work with other people as well.
I love that. And designing in New York versus say Florida? What's the big, like, what was the change that you noticed, or from the people, from everything, kind of?
Well, I mean the logistics in New York, it's like night and day. I have a client who lives, in the penthouse apartment in a pre-war building. The elevator is minuscule. It could fit like maybe 2 dining chairs. So they have to get a boom to get like anything big up. And you have to make sure that everything is going to be there at that date, right? Because the boom costs $20,000. They close the street down. You need a permit. You need to pay for the boom. So if something's missing that day, and the client has to pay $20,000 again, like, I'm screwed. So meanwhile, the day of the boom was a downpour rainstorm like you could never imagine, like a monsoon. So like literally we're standing on the roof deck of the, like, with the movers, like getting things in. It was a disaster. It was the worst move-in experience I've ever had, but thank God everything got in. But it was a disaster.
Was the client nervous and happy?
But thank God they weren't there.
Oh, good.
Thank God. I don't like clients at move-ins because I also want that like big reveal.
Yeah.
And that, the way I work with these big projects is I send everything to a storage facility, where they inspect it and photograph it, and then everything goes there. And then we have like one big, or, depending on the size of the project, 2, 3, 4 days of moving everything in. And ideally, I don't want the client to come, because when the client sees things like in a progressive manner, they might be like, I can't see how that sofa, blah, blah, blah. They need to see it all at once. So that I really discourage clients from coming before it's all there.
That's a great, great strategy, because they'll start doubting your vision and so forth. And it's, they're not as creative or as of a visual person to see to the finish line. So that's a great strategy, to store everything and then deliver it at once. And I could imagine just picturing that boom with the no standing zones and all the traffic and the cabs. That's
my! Well, they closed the street down, so you didn't have to worry about that. But it's like all the furniture had to be covered, going up in the boom like 20 stories. Like
you're freaking out. Is something gonna fall? If you could design anybody's home out of a celebrity or a famous business person, Jeff Bezos, whatever, whoever, who would it be and why?
Interesting question. I never get asked that. I get where would I want to design a place? Well,
let's do both. Where would you want to design a place, and then you have more time to tell us who.
I mean, Aspen. Aspen's like, any mountain home would be my dream. I mean, Aspen's like one of my favorite places, but any mountain home. I like dying to do a mountain home.
What
so
is
if you
this,
know anyone?
Well, I do know the agency in Aspen. I can connect you there if you're interested. What is this aura or awe with Aspen? I mean, we have, where I live is Lake Tahoe. Now, Lake Tahoe has $40 million water properties and so forth, but it's not trendy, or it's not as luxurious. It's more of like bummier, I would say. Some people will quote it, kind of getaway to nature. What's with Aspen? How would you describe Aspen?
I actually lived in Aspen like 7 years ago for the summer. I think that, first of all, it's stunning. It's like a true mountain town, right? It is just beautiful. Honestly, I don't ski, so I haven't been to so many mountain towns. Like, my husband has been to all of them. He loves them all. It's his dream to get a mountain home. So I really can't compare. I love the mountains, and I've been to Aspen, so that's why I'm saying Aspen. I think it's beautiful. I love hiking. I love the hikes in Aspen. I love walking around. It's just beautiful. I think it's crazy, ridiculously expensive and overpriced. I mean, the homes there are outrageous. But I guess that's what I know as far as like a mountain home outside of
It's very luxurious too. Like it's very clean and luxurious. I feel like in Aspen you could wear, a Chanel jacket. And like Tahoe, you better wear a hoodie. And it's so
I
weird.
feel like then Lake Tahoe is probably more my speed. I'm not the Chanel jacket type. I better go to Lake Tahoe.
Gotcha. Well, if I ever get a home in Tahoe and if it's on that mountain, then I'll be calling you.
Okay, great.
And in terms of the second question, if you could design a home for somebody that's either famous or high net worth, who do you think would be an interesting design for? Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos?
I don't know if I'd want to work for those guys. I don't know. I really don't know.
Would Brad Pitt be on the category?
I mean, I wouldn't. I wouldn't turn that one down. Okay.
All right. Well, I'll put Brad Pitt versus George Clooney.
Put it out there for me.
Well, if he ever approaches you, now you know why. All right. And what's next for you in terms of the future? Where do you see yourself, or where would you like your company to go?
Well, that's a good question. I was actually on the phone with one of my interior design friends who we started out like together at the same point. And she always wanted to be big time, like really big time. And she is now, and she's incredible and she's doing amazing things. And I said to her, I'm like, if you could have looked 10 years ago and see where you were, wouldn't you be like, wow, I can't believe it. For me, I wanted to start out when I started out, like I said, I did my friend's daughter's room. I really just wanted to do children's spaces. That was my dream, that people would be like, oh, I'm doing my child's bedroom. We should hire Melanie Morris. Like that was my dream. So I far surpassed that, but I never wanted to be like next level. Like I want to be around with my kids. I want to be able to go on vacation. I don't, the job is super stressful as it is. I don't want to have a team of 10 and like worry about payroll or anything like that. So I'm happy as far as my interior design business, where it is. Would I like that mountain home? Yes. But I'm also doing like other things. I started this thing called the Etsy Edit, which is, instead of like you going on Amazon like you did to get that piece of furniture, or someone that's looking for a cool lamp or a cool vase, a lot of people think Etsy is like crafty home people. Some of their stuff is incredible, like really amazing, beautiful work. So what I did is I did all the legwork, and on my website, it says Shop the Edit. And you can click on different things on Etsy that are really amazing. Instead of going to, let's say, on a CB2 or a West Elm, you get like these authentic handmade pieces. You're supporting small businesses, and you don't have the same thing that everyone else has in your home.
I love that.
And it's fun. It's so fun. Instead of like scrolling on Instagram at night, my husband's like, what are you doing? I'm on Etsy, scrolling to find really cool things on Etsy.
I love that because, that kind of goes back to the whole RH discussion we had earlier. Everyone's going to have that same cloud couch.
Exactly.
And then on Etsy Edit, you really have an opportunity for a custom design. I'm going to check it out too, and we'll link all your stuff below. Final question here as we wrap up, and thank you for coming on as always. If you could go back in time, any time of your life, what piece of advice would you give yourself, and why?
It doesn't have to do with interior design. Is that okay?
No, it could be anything.
I think it's more about raising kids.
Okay.
And I remember one of my friends who had a child before me, and she said to me, raising children, and as you know, and as any parent knows, is literally the hardest job on the planet. And she said, you're going to make mistakes, but just remember everything you do with love. And I look back, especially when they were younger, and I wish I had more patience. I wish, I read to them more, things like that. So I guess being that backseat driver, I guess, or is it Monday quarterback? What is it called?
I don't know. I try to read it to the kids as much as I can, but I'm probably in the same boat as you. I think I'll say the same thing if someone asks.
Right. Like if I could go back in time, I wish that's what I did. I wish that I
more quality focused time, I think.
Yeah. And I wish that I was a little more patient. I mean, I have the best relationship with my kids. My two boys in college, they call me every day. I couldn't be more grateful. But of course, life passes you by really fast. If I could go back in time when my kids were little,
You know, it's so interesting. That's the struggle nowadays of parents that are active, and work is so demanding. And with the phones, you know, we're constantly alert, and a client emails and you feel like you want to email that client right back. And I think that's everybody that's in business that I've interviewed. And some of the things I pick up from that is people leave, you know, their car and their phone now when they go to a meeting. And some people go, oh, I have to answer this. And at times I've even said, why? You know, 15, 20 years ago, phones didn't exist. So you didn't really have to answer this, you know, right away. And life moved on. No, I get it. I get it. And that's great advice to any entrepreneur out there is spend time with the family, and because time flies. So Melanie Morris, thank you so much for coming on the Ideal Hour. I truly enjoyed this episode, and I hope people that are looking for interior design tips reach out to you. And I know you've shared some golden nuggets here, so I got to check out the Etsy thing as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. A lot better than I thought. I was nervous.
Oh, well, I hope it wasn't me. I didn't.
No, it was great. You made it easy.
Okay, good. Thank you, Melanie.